stand-up comedy on YouTube. That's the way. Is that the way of the future now?
And people, everyone watches stuff on their phone anyway, so you're going to get more people watching it. I think if you put it, obviously you want a Netflix deal, but you can't get that, which is limited.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Here's the Pitch, sponsored by Masses Restaurants in St. Louis. 5 locations. stlmasses.com is their website. Go there, check out those menus if you're driving through St. Louis. Maybe my next guest who's here in St. Louis, maybe he'll go get some good pasta, some toasted raviolis. But I want to talk about, before you may notice a new little look here. I was inspired by my Bob Costas interview and his Emmys, so I put my Emmys in the background. Jimm Florentine is my guest. Jim, do you have any Emmys?
Yeah, I have one.
Congrats. What was it for? And I'm sure you went and accepted it, and I'm sure it was a very exciting day for you.
No, it was I worked on a show with Bob Costas. You just brought him up on Inside the NFL. Oh, yeah, we won for best sports show, but also best comedy segment on a sports show. So I won an Emmy.
On that actual?
Yeah, on HBO Inside the NFL, yeah.
Well, you should have it behind you. I know you're in a wonderful hotel here in St. Louis, so you don't bring your Emmys. Do you ever walk around with your Emmys and bring them around? Your one Emmy? I do. I like to show them off.
No, I don't. I used to keep it on my nightstand. So if I brought a girl back, that was the closer. They saw the Emmy. It's like my Mariano Rivera, you know what I mean? Like, they see the Emmy, like, all right, I just...
Put on Enter Sandman, because that was his walk-in music.
Exactly, yeah, I put on Enter Sandman, see the Emmy. But no, I just have it. But no, it was just... You mentioned Bob Costas. I won the Emmy being on that show with him. He was real supportive of me, too, when I first got the gig, which is awesome. He's a great guy, man. He came to see me a bunch of times in St. Louis at the Funny Bone when I performed there and stuff. So
I did not know there was this background information with you and Bob. I remember you being on Inside the NFL. I used to watch that all the time as well. So
yeah, I was on 2004 or 5. Well, I was only lasted one season. I got booted off. I was too edgy for them. They said they wanted edgy. We want you to be edgy, do all this crazy stuff, and then they didn't want it at all.
People that say they want edgy really don't want edgy. That's what I've learned.
Yeah, they lured me in with that. I'm like, that's fine. All right, good. And then, but it was great work, and I got to work with Dan Marino. I'm a huge Dolphin fan, so he was on the show at the time, and Bob and all that stuff. So it was great. It was fine. I only worked 1 year because I didn't want to censor myself and do all this lame stuff anyway. So it was better that we parted ways.
Stand-up comedy on YouTube. That's the way. Is that the way of the future now? It's just because you can put it on YouTube. You don't have to wait for someone to release it. It's your own business. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's, look, it's for the guys that can't get on Netflix, basically. If you're a white male, there's like 3 slots for you. That's about it. So if you're not in that top 3, you're done. So, and people, everyone watches stuff on their phone anyway, so you're going to get more people watching it. I think if you put it, obviously you want a Netflix deal, but you can't get that, which is limited. You put it on Netflix and people watch it for free, and a lot more people will see it.
Your comedy specials, when did you shoot it, and how long did it take you to kind of culminate the material and then realize that you had an hour in you?
Yeah, probably like 2.5 years or so. Usually takes about to get a full hour of material. Shot it a few months back, and did a couple quick edits, and it's ready to go. So I'm excited. And then you just start working on new material from there, a whole other set. Which I like doing. As a comic, I like throwing away all that stuff. You'll keep some of it until you build up another 45 minutes, but you slowly drop that and add some new stuff in. And I always like working on new material and seeing if it's working and experimenting on stage. So.
And your YouTube channel, I think, is Jimm Florentine Comedy, I believe. I have all my little notes.
Yeah, youtube.com/Jimm Florentine Comedy. The comedy special will be up there by the time you guys are watching this. You watch it for free.
Yeah, just turn it on. YouTube's really easy to get. That's how people watch these. So I'm sure after they watch you, maybe they'll come over here and we can have like a post session about your show. But you're still doing your podcast with Barstool Sports. I listen to a little bit of that. Still just angry at the world. I love that. I love your take. But I also love when you look at awful Facebook posts, which is also on your YouTube channel. Just tell us a little bit about how it's going with the podcast, working with Barstool, and it's just you in a room, kind of just being able to vent, and it seems cathartic for you.
Yeah, I mean, Barstool's great, a great company to work for. They don't kowtow to anybody. People are always trying to take shots at them, like whatever. Dave Portnoy doesn't give a fuck, which I love. He just fights right back, which most people don't. They just go, oh, sorry, and then, Yeah, I do 2 podcasts a week on there. It's basically fans send in stuff that on social media is dumb stuff that people post, and I make fun of it. And there's a ton of dumb stuff that people post.
I say you probably have way more material than 2 hours a week, I would assume. But you filter.
Yeah, I got folders and folders and emails of stuff that people send in. They know what would work for the podcast. A lot of people making up stories. There's a lot of my 5-year-old kid said that how smart my kid said something about transgender people deserve the same rights as regular people, and I was so proud I cried. 5 years old? You sure? Because the parent just want to go, hey, listen, he said that because I'm the parent. So it's really nothing to do with the 5-year-old. I just want, I'm teaching my kid to love everybody. It's just such, and then parents see that and they go, well, I got to make up my own story about how smart my kid is. And it's only because I'm the parent. And I call that bullshit out because you could know it's not true.
I see a few things that you're up to. You were working on or part of an Andrew Dice Clay special, right? Are you part of a Dice documentary? Tell me a little bit about that. And again, I was reading a little bit about you. That was your guy, right? This is the guy that got you into comedy. Tell me a little bit about this documentary and just your love of Dice.
Yeah, I don't know. I know they're doing a Dice documentary, and all his friends, they want us to tell stories about him and all that stuff. And my story was, basically I saw him perform before I even do comedy. And I saw him do like 7 minutes on Rodney Dangerfield and the HBO special. I was like, man, that's what I want to do. With the leather jacket and the dirty jokes. And there's almost like a rock star up there. I'm like, that's cool. It took me a while to get up on stage, but he was the inspiration of me saying I want to be a stand-up comic. So, and then I wound up years later, being friends with him and opening for him. I'm still friends with him to this day. So, it's a good story, for me just to, hang out with him and open for him was always my dream. Just that he got me into comedy and stuff, which is great. So it's documented at work, and I don't know when it's going to come out or whatever, but I'm sure it's going to be good. It's got a good story.
As I think about him, he wasn't original. I mean, when I have comedians on, we talk about Sam Kinison. No one has done what Sam's done. I'm going to ask you about Norm Macdonald in a second. But Dice, was almost too dirty, and it didn't last for him. He was selling out stadiums, and then it just sort of went away. I don't understand.
Well, he was the first guy to get canceled, if you think about it.
True.
That the women's groups came after him as soon as his movie went in the movie theater. It went number one the first week. And then by the second week, it was pretty much out of theaters. The women's groups were like protesting. He's making gay jokes and he's anti-women, and they just took it out of the theaters. He had like a 3-picture deal, like got canceled, and nobody wanted to work with him anymore. But he was the first guy. MTV banned him because he cursed or on there doing his nursery rhyme. So, and then he just laid low for a while and then made a comeback. And now he's doing Woody Allen movies, Entourage. He's all over the place. He's a great actor. He was in A Star Is Born. He played Lady Gaga's dad. So, he came all the way back around again, which is great.
You talked about canceling. I was listening to a radio show. They all went to see Bill Burr. He came through St. Louis, played the Fox Theater. And I like this radio show, but this comment has stuck with me. This woman on there who I enjoy. I believe we sort of have kind of the same thoughts. But she said at one point, Bill Burr can be uncomfortable. He does that on purpose. It's sort of his comedy, right? I mean, that would be what you think. She goes, and I was kind of, I was afraid to laugh. I didn't know if I should be laughing. And I'm like, well, then don't go, right? I mean, if you don't know if you should, then don't. If you have a problem, she didn't say she had a problem with Bill Burr. She knew what she was getting into. But the fact that someone says that on a radio show or thinks that out loud, maybe they don't believe what they're saying, it pissed me off. I was like, laugh. If you think it's funny, laugh. You don't have to be afraid to laugh. You're in a safe spot. Everyone went and bought a ticket to that person's they know what they're getting into. That's what bothers me about today's comedy.
Well, people are so trained to be, not laugh because they'll lose their job, they'll lose this, that. So they're so trained to be, pretend they're offended by everything that they get in that mindset and they can't even get out of it at the comedy show. I have to remind the crowd sometimes. I'm like, listen, I'll say something and they'll like groan. And I'll say, listen, I already got the job here. I'm not getting fired. I know the owner. I'm good. I go, and nobody knows you people. It's dark in here. So laugh. You're not going to get fired if you laugh at this. If anything, I'm responsible. I don't care. So, you almost have to tell a crowd sometimes like that. But yeah, the comics who've gotten the business to push buttons, like that's what we're supposed to do, is find that edge maybe you go over the line, you know what I mean? And go, okay, I got to go. That went a little too far. Let me go back a little bit. Like that was always how we came up as comics, to do that, to push buttons, push the envelope when you're doing stand up. You know, so now, you know, Bill's got his own built-in audience, but yeah, I could see people, because Bill loves to push, you know, go over the line. Maybe he goes too far or whatever. But that's why he's selling on arenas, because people want to hear that stuff and they like it.
I think you know Bill a little bit. I don't know if you have had conversations in the. Is it worrisome though? At some point, one thing that you say. I mean, he went on SNL, got like he did his act. It's funny. It's obviously comedy, and people got a little worked up. How worrisome is it for you guys when it's very possible something gets picked up, and that might be the end of your career? Do you think about that, or it's like screw it? This is what I do. And in Bill's case, I mean, he clearly doesn't. It's not affecting him because, like you said, he's selling things out. But maybe for you, you know, you're at the Funny Bone. Someone gets a cell phone out, you puts it out there. Oh, Jimm Florentine said this. And is it worrisome about this cancel culture for
No,
comedians?
I think it's more worrisome for Bill, because Bill does movies. He's in a Star Wars, right, TV show or something or whatever. I don't know. You know, he's got the F is for Family show on Netflix. I think he's more at risk of going over the line. Me, it's like, what are they going to take from me? There's nothing. You know what I mean? Nobody cares. Like I remember Adam Carolla made fun of transgender people on his podcast like 6-7 years ago, and they tried to come after him and take away, but he owns his podcast. He's like, what are you going to take from me? I own this whole network. I got .coms, you know, as advertisers. They don't care, and they couldn't do anything, and they can't really do it. You know, Bill's got more to lose, but Bill knows he can always. Bill's a comic at heart. He loves performing stand-up. He can always play in arenas and big theaters the rest of his life, the rest of his career, even if he says something where Hollywood say, well, you're not going to be in any movies. He already knows, I got my fan base. I'm good. I think that's the way he thinks, and that's why he doesn't care, which is great. Me, I'm not getting any Hollywood roles at this point, and I'm fine with it. I'm good. I'm out of that scene. I don't want to be in that scene. I don't want to kiss anybody's ass. So, you know, I'll say whatever the fuck I want to say, and, you know, Barstool's not going to fire me. They love that.
Give us more, they say. Give me more.
Yeah, give us more. We want more controversy. Yeah.
And I mentioned Norm Macdonald, and it really affected me. I didn't realize. I mean, I was a huge fan, probably my favorite comedian. Watched him from his days, you know, starting on Letterman, and I was like, "Who's this guy?" And he shows up on SNL, and of course, then Rocket Ship of just how hilarious he was. I didn't know how well you knew him, but did you take it hard as well, or was it a guy that you kind of looked up to at all? Or tell me a little bit about your feelings.
I wasn't, you know, I don't think I never met Norm before. I mean, I was kind of a fan, but I didn't know. Like, I never watched Saturday Night Live. I was always working on Saturday night, so I was never a big fan. I'm not a big fan of sketch comedy anyway. I always liked him. You know, he's always his dry sense of humor when you know, you see some interviews. But then when he passed away, I started looking up all the stuff on YouTube. He's got so much stuff out there. And it was so good. I'm like, man, did I miss the boat on this? I mean, my nephew's like 23. He's like, Norm Macdonald's my favorite. I'm like, yeah, I like him. He's like, oh, man, you don't know about this? I go, no. And he's always telling me about him. I'm like, oh, no, I like him. I respect him. And he doesn't give a shit. But when I found out all his stuff, like after he passed away, I'm like, holy shit, man, was this guy a genius?
Yeah, I just think that's sad that it took him to die for everyone to see the clip at Conan. I had never seen the clip where he just is so quick with talking about the Carrot Top movie, and then I've seen the other stuff where he, you know, the moth joke. I've listened to many podcasts about him. It's just kind of sad that, you know, I don't think he even cared about having people love him. That was part of what was great about him. He's like, I don't give a shit. I'm going to tell jokes. Like he did the Bob Saget roast and read from a book from 1947 and thought it was going to suck. And it was hilarious because he did it, you know, it's just the whole, and that's that Sam Kinison and that, you know, when we talk about these guys that have been originals. You kind of broke on Howard Stern, right? I mean, we always kind of have this conversation about Stern. What is Joe Rogan kind of turning that page to where comedians can break? Because when you hear a guy on Joe Rogan, it could possibly, you know, start their career. Howard's not really doing the young comedians anymore, and some of these guys aren't even young, like Drew Lynch and a lot of these names I've never heard of. I'm like, oh, that guy's kind of funny. Is that kind of where it's gone? Is Joe the guy that kind of people now look to as maybe where Howard was in the early 2000s?
I think so, yeah. I mean, Joe's broke a lot of comics, you know, and you make a couple appearances on there. Next thing you know, people love that stuff. You see the views he gets on YouTube, and and all that stuff. And yeah, I mean, he's the guy basically. You know, he was the West Coast guy. Now he's obviously in Texas, but yeah, I mean, he's the, you know, launched a bunch of comics careers, and he loves comedy, he loves comics, he loves supporting and stuff. He does a lot of, you know, great things for comics behind the scenes that people don't even know about and stuff. So yeah, he's a good dude. No, but he's definitely the modern day Howard Stern. Absolutely.
I always think about your time on there because it was where I heard of you first. I heard of Greg Fitzsimmons, Craig Gass, Artie Lang, and I'm always it always makes me I'm always interested in those days for you when you went in there and it sort of helped your career. Just what was that like the next day after you come off that show? Was it that weird phone ringing off the hook, or because they were playing the Crank Yankers stuff and the terrorizing telemarketers was really what they started playing? Was it that overnight success at all for you, or did it take a few times on there?
Yeah, it took a few times, but I would just remember, like, you know, you couldn't believe how many people listened to the show. Like, I had no idea, you know, I'm in my little comedy world, living in like a little apartment and stuff, and then I'm getting in touch, people are getting in touch with me that I went to high school with and grammar school, and oh my God, I heard you on there, and college and all that stuff, you know, so it was like, man, I knew I listened. I just, you know, I knew he had a big audience. I just didn't know how much he reached. And then, you know, once you start doing the road, you know, all of a sudden people are like, oh, I know that guy. He was on Howard Stern, and they'll come to see you. So, yeah, I didn't know it was going to be that big, that fast, like that much power, and that people would want to come to a comedy club just to be associated with anybody that was on the show.
It really did happen that way because you guys started rolling through here, and I'm like, oh, I want to see Craig, I want to see Art, I want to see Jim, and you guys had this whole traveling group.
Well, Artie, you know, Artie Lang bringing me out on tour, you know, we were both, you know, that was a big thing because Artie became a rock star on that show, and you know, me and Artie were friends, so he's like, dude, I want you to open for him. I'm like, great. So we're performing in front of, you know, 1,000 people a night in these theaters, which is insane. So that's how people got to know me, by me opening for Artie, which was great, you know.
Now, I mentioned the new terrorizing telemarketers, right? Is there a new disc coming out, or did I read that correctly?
At some point it will, but yeah, I'm working on it. You know, it takes time. You don't know when. You know, you can't. There's no set time when it's going to be ready because people got to call you. So if they don't call, I can't. You know, there's nothing I can do. I got to wait until they call.
You're just sitting there with play, record, ready to hit, and then you're like, all right, here we go.
Yeah, I mean, I just got a house phone hooked back up after, you know, friggin' never, you know, and just because, you know, it's better audio on the house phone. And then, you know, the phone started ringing as soon as I plugged it in. It was crazy.
What's the minutia? I was going to say, what's the minutia on that? So do you have some sort of bit planned in your head, and then you get the telemarketer and you're like, all right, here's what I'm ready. You know, like these are all sort of mapped out, and now here comes the call, and now, all right, I've you know, worked on this.
Or sometimes I'll just ad lib it if I hear a certain word. Then I just know, okay, listen, I'm going to go in this direction. You know, there's one I know that I was working on that's probably, the guy goes, hey, I want to hook you up to an insurance agent. I just have to have a couple of questions. Do you have 10 minutes to talk to him? And as soon as I heard that, he said that like 3 seconds in the call, I go, I don't have 10 minutes. I have like 5. Is there any way you could do it in 5? And then it just goes, it's just chaos after that. I don't have 10 minutes. I'm just asking, why can't he do it in 5? Why can't he talk faster? If he talks really fast, can he do it in? So I just sometimes, but then other times, like, let's plan this thing where you're going to pick up, and then we'll just mess with the person. But they, you know, they have to participate on the other end. Like if they don't react, it's not a good call. We need someone to get upset, get angry, yell at us, be confused. That's when it's a good call. So they're really the star on the call, if you can get under their skin.
It's hard because they all work in these, you know, sweatshops, and they have to, you know, get these calls in 3 minutes and get the deal or move on, right? It seems like a different type of atmosphere these days, thankfully.
Yeah, but I think if they're happy that someone's on the phone and stayed on the phone with them without potentials, I'll deal with it, which I have that advantage.
Have you been part of this the Crank Yankers reboot here a little bit? Are you doing anything for them?
Yeah, I've been on the last couple of seasons. It came back after, like 12 years, which is crazy.
Puppets doing funny pranks. I mean, who knew that this would continue? But it seems like a winning formula for Jimmy Kimmel and his group, right?
I think at like 2007 was the last season we did, and then 2019 out of blue it comes back. So we did 2 seasons so far, and I think we're going to do another one. I'm not sure. I guess they'll let me know. But yeah, I mean, just look, if you can make money making prank phone calls, that's shit that I did when I was a kid. Like, it really is the American dream.
You were like a creator, right? It was Jimmy Kimmel and Adam Carolla's kind of production company. They just sort of kind of came to you because they'd heard you, right? That's how that worked?
Yeah. Yeah, it was they were, it was their idea to do the prank calls and recreating with puppets. They just picked me to be one of the guys on there doing the calls. But yeah, and they still do the show. Jimmy still does it, no matter how busy he is. Adam still does it. So pretty much the same crew that was from back in the day is back.
It's going to be kind of cool to be with that. That's some group of Tracy Morgan, Wanda Sy. I mean, we got Kevin Nealon, all these big names, and be part of that group and know that you're a huge contributor. I mean, that's got to be fun just to see those names next to yours, right?
Yeah, Sarah Silverman. I know it was. I was pretty much like the only unknown when I first got the gig. But no, it's great, and it's great that we're still doing it to this day. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I don't know. Who knows with TV shows if they come back or not. But just that we did 2 more seasons was great.
He's got a couple more minutes with Jim. He's at the Funny Bone, and then he's in Point Pleasant Beaches, New Jersey. I had to look it up, but that's next weekend, and you can check JimmFlorentine.com. YouTube, check him out on YouTube as his special has dropped, and you can see him doing an hour of material. Are you worried about this MLB lockout? I know you're a big Giants fan. How pissed off were you that you had to play the Dodgers in the first round? How did this season treat you, and are you worried about I'm a little pissed off at baseball, Jim. I got to be honest. I don't like it. I'm sick of the slowness and the eggheads taking over. I'm not real happy, and now we've got this fight.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great season for the Giants, but to lose, it's almost like you don't even want them to get that far. You win 107 games, which was crazy, and then I knew playing the Dodgers, I'm like, I don't want to play them. If they would have beat the Dodgers, they would have beat the Braves. They would have won the World Series. They would have matched up well against the Braves, but I just knew. I was telling my kid, he's getting into baseball and the Giants. I'm like, we don't want to play the Dodgers, and just that 5-game series. We just ran out of gas after a while. But, I mean, look, I never liked Gabe Kapler, especially as a Phillies manager. But then he came over, and the first year I hated him. But the guy won me over. Like, every move he made was great. Who knows? Now the lockout, so who knows when they're going to get back. It'll probably be a week before the season starts. And then all these guys are going to get signed. Because I don't think they're going to sign anybody, right, during a lockout?
No, can't do anything. It's it's boring.
Yeah. I know. So I got back into baseball big time the last couple of years, but they're just fighting over millions. I don't, it's stupid, So I don't know. I mean, Giants got to sign a bunch of guys. I mean, Buster Posey retiring, that hurt, but I knew he wasn't sure how long he wanted to play. I think he was going to be a Hall of Famer. He should be, but hopefully they get it. It'd be nice if they got it resolved in like February, but that's not going to happen. I'm sure there's going to be no spring training. Maybe they'll take some games off and do 2 weeks of spring training. It's just annoying. It's like, come on, dude. Everybody's hurting out there for money, and you guys are bickering over billions of dollars. We can't relate to you. You know what I mean? You're hitting you're having fun out there hitting a baseball. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and the game is boring. I don't know if we've talked about this. We share the same birthday, August 18th. Happy birthday, Leo.
That's my kid's birthday, too. He's got the same birthday.
That's a great day. 8/18. What a wonderful day.
Yeah, August 18th.
You talked about Ozzy's Boneyard channel on Sirius, which takes me to just one music question. Did you watch the Beatles Get Back? Were you a Beatles fan? Did you see the whole 8-hour documentary? Do you care about that? I like talking to people about it.
Never a big Beatles fan. No interest in watching it. I hear Yoko was a pain in the ass. She was in every scene sitting next to John. And the people like, this is confirmed now why, she broke up the Beatles.
Well, you should see there's some.
It's like bringing your wife to work. Who does that? Whenever like a comic has a girlfriend or a wife, it's like, or you want to bring your friends, like, hey man, this is my job. I'm bringing you to work, so fucking behave. I mean, don't be yelling at the manager at a comedy club. It's like, this is my job. I wouldn't come to your job drunk, yelling at your manager. Like, you'd be embarrassed. The people don't get that. And Yoko's basically in the fucking studio sitting next to him. It's like, get out of there. Let those guys create,
She does seem quiet. She just sits there. But there are times where they're just rehearsing and she starts doing her crazy, avant-garde art music. And it's like, oh my God, how did Paul deal with this? Is what I always want. What a
Just
scene.
that she's there. It's like, what are you doing there? You want to be on the other side of the glass and watch and be bored. That's fine. But to be in the room with the guys as they're trying to create, it's like, why? Was anybody else's wives there? I didn't see it, but I know that people were saying Yoko was in like every, and you could tell when John was alone, he was finally like, I got to get away from her.
Well, it was his idea to bring her in, but yeah, it's okay. It's entertaining. So you got the YouTube special, JimmFlorentine.com, 2022. Any plans? Any new plans? You got the podcast. You got so much going on. Anything that you're thinking about for 2022? And how's it going on the road? Is it sort of back to normal, or are we still a little, 80%? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much back to normal. I don't know. It's the wintertime. Any cold weather places, numbers are going to be up a little. Who knows with masks and all that bullshit. But I think it's pretty much close to, you go to the warm states now where the numbers are down because they're not going through the wave like the cold weather. There's plenty of work there. So there's enough work out there. And no, it's 2022, just, doing the stand-up, doing the podcast. Basically being my own boss, which I love. I can work when I want, do what I want, say what I want, dress the way I want. So I love that freedom of having that freedom.
No, that is what everybody strives for. I strive to retire at 55 and then be able to do that. I have a real full-time job. This is my fun kind of hobby. But my goal is 55, do that. I don't know what I would do, maybe a production company or something. But that you're living the life the way it's supposed to be lived, Jim. Congrats.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. You don't know if you're going to make it or whatever. But at some point, you just keep plugging away and see what happens, So I'm glad I didn't start comedy now with all this censorship going on. If I was 3 years into my career, I'd probably get out. I'm like, I can't deal with this. I'm pretty much grandfathered in, and nobody really gives a fuck, which is great. So that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, and then we did cover that, and it's a scary time, and hopefully this is just a bump in the road. Maybe these are little bumps in the road. These happen. These little inflections, and then people stop saying, "Hey, this is stupid. Let's get back to let's have some fun."
Like I said before, those people are not coming to a comedy club. So the thing is, people aren't walking out of comedy clubs now being offended. I always ask the managers or the club owners, I go, are more people complaining, writing letters, friggin' this, want their money? No, not at all. Those people know to stay away. Like you could research any comic and see what their comedy's about. So they're not even coming, which is great. So it's really not happening. And people that come to a comedy club really want to hear stuff like, please entertain me. I'm so sick of just, walking on eggshells about everything in life. So that's good for us as stand-up comics.
Yes, well, you keep doing what you do. I appreciate you coming on. I always let the guest have the last word. Is there anything you wanted to mention that I didn't mention over here?
No.
We got it.
Hopefully the Rams get a team back.
That's over. Yeah,
I know. So the NFL just gave you guys hush money, and then everything goes away.
I, for one, don't need the NFL anymore. I was in my 20s when they showed up. They left pretty much in my late 30s. We 2 Super Bowls, a Super Bowl win, greatest show on turf. I can't imagine it being any better than that, and that happened in the first 6 years. So they're never going to have that in LA, in my opinion. We had a team that had a nickname. How many teams have nicknames, right? Like the Purple People Eaters, the Steel Curtain, greatest show on turf. I mean, that's all we needed.
Yeah, you're right. And then, screw them, they just take the money and run and then just abandon cities and hold them hostage and all that stuff. But we'll see what they do with that big lump sum. Where does that money go that they paid St. Louis to keep, It's funny. It's like, how about you distribute that against all the fans that would come to games? Maybe give them a piece of that.
Please.
But they won't. No, of course not.
No chance. No, they're fighting. They're already fighting over it, believe it or not. There's 3 groups that the money was given to, and they're fighting over what they're going to do with it. It's exactly what we all expected that here. That's how we lost the team, because we couldn't even get our shit together to keep the team here. And now we're going to fight over where the money. It's Jim, be careful in St. Louis. That's all I'm going to say. Maybe stay in the hotel room, watch a lot of Netflix.
Yeah. Yeah, I will. Thanks.
All right, Jimm Florentine, he's awesome. I thank him again, and you can obviously check him out on YouTube. Go to his channel and check out his special. I'm sure it's going to be great. Jim's a funny man. I appreciate him coming on all the time. And I thank you for watching Here's the Pitch. I'm your YouTube friend, Brad, and we'll see you next time.